friends. Happy Friday. Welcome to the Book Corner here on Amazon. Hopefully, you guys are doing amazing today and not freezing today. So, if you got hit by the storm, oh my God, my heart goes out to you. It's a tad bit chilly here in Texas, but if it's a Friday, beautiful Friday morning for everyone, hopefully, you guys are doing well, sending your blessings and many prayers. And you're here to talk to us about a brand new book coming out from a very amazing author. So, I can't wait. For those of you who are curious, by the way, The Hitman is out. It's my new novella, one of my new novellas, and it's actually on sale today. So pick it up if you're looking for something fun. But let's get started. You're here live watching us on Amazon. Make sure if this is the first time, subscribe so you don't miss any notifications. We're live Wednesday nights and Friday mornings. So let's bring our guests. Hello, Freddie. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you for having me on and merry early everything.
Absolutely, it is the beautiful Christmas season. Everybody who's been praying for snow, please stop because it's cold. Your
Oh, a little snow never hurt anybody.
prayers might be coming true. I really hope not because it's freezing. So,
Yeah, it is.
congratulations, dears. You have a new book out. Allow me to ruin your Christmas. Fairly
Thank you.
appropriate. I want to jump right in. So, Freddie, tell us, what is this book about? What do you have for us? Give us an insight.
Well, first and foremost, you can, if you are a Kindle subscriber, you get the book for free on Amazon, which is really cool because well, this is the perfect kind of weather for you to curl up with your Kindle and read a free book. So, Allow Me to Ruin a Christmas follows the story of a college kid, Beckett, who catches his favorite podcaster at home with his mother in a certain uncompromising position, and it all snowballs from there. He finds out that Lex, who is the podcaster, was involved with the death of his father, in which case things escalate even further and it spirals into this crazy whirlwind of lies and betrayal and revenge gone absolutely wrong. It is told from the first person through alternating chapters. So it's Beckett, then it's Lex, then it's Beckett, Lex, so on and so forth. And I had an incredible time putting this story together as sort of a projection of what if we took what if we took a cozy, romantic, Hallmark-ish type movie, but flipped the narrative and made it really, really wrong on so many levels in literary form.
Freddie, oh my God. Like you started, I went, say what? Oh, what? Ooh. And this is proceeded to go, yes, it went wrong in so many different ways. It is so good. So I
Thank
want to
you.
know, where did this story come from? How did you come up with this? Where does this whole idea of like, I'm going to ruin your Christmas? Because this is such an intriguing concept altogether. I want to know all about it. Tell me.
Yeah, well, I began writing the manuscript about a year and a half ago
Okay.
in July when there was Christmas in July going on
Everywhere.
everywhere. And my wife may or may not be obsessed with a couple of cable channels that show lots of movies back to back. So when I say it's a projection, it really is a projection.
You're definitely tapping into like, if you stick me another Hallmark movie, I might have to hurt somebody. And this is how it's going to go down.
Yeah.
I need to know because you write in such an amazing and very hysterical sort of way. You're tapping to all these different things. When your readers picked up this book, what do they said? Because this is a little bit like, whoa, where is Freddie taking us? What's going on here?
Yeah, well there was the humor factor, which I don't really consider myself much of a funny guy. I just had fun letting the thoughts pour onto the page. But I'm happy and thankful people think that I'm funny because humor along with horror, and I don't know that this is a horror so much as it's more psychological thriller, a lot of family drama. But I um, I was thankful that some of what I found to be entertaining and amusing to me that it translated to the reader.
Don't you love it when it comes across on the page and people's like, yeah, I laugh my head off. And you're going, yes, thank you. That's exactly what I was going for. So I love it.
Yeah, and you know, and it's really, again, it's really hard. It's really, I think entertainment itself is really hard. And you
Mhm.
know, your new book, The Hitman, it's an urban fantasy, and I'm sure that there are people and readers in the world who are like, huh, well, you know, this, but you obviously have a high degree of success in this world, and so it's still, even after all these books that you put out, that it's well received, that you're like, "Ah, thankfully, the masses enjoyed it."
You never get over that feeling in your stomach of like, ooh, what are people gonna think? Are you gonna
Yeah,
like it? And especially your readers. You're like, am I going to deliver something you enjoy? Are you still gonna feel a little betrayed, or are you gonna feel excited? What is those situations? And I think that's the beautiful thing as writers is the moment you lose that is the moment you lose your touch with what you're doing because you become very cocky and you stop caring about your readership. So I'm completely agree with you.
yeah, absolutely. And I kind of go back to professional sports just because that's how I grew up. I grew up playing football and Little League baseball for a couple of years. And so watching the pros like Joe Montana, and in recent years, guys like Tom Brady, and people starting to ask the question, like, quote unquote, the question, is he past his prime?
Yes.
And as creators, as storytellers, we don't want to be past our prime. And there's a favorite writer of mine who I like to read one-star reviews of his, and it's more of a humbling exercise. Like, okay, if I ever achieve this level of success, I want to be able to read one-star reviews of my work and find them more amusing than ego shattering. And so, there, his first book was highly successful, turned into a movie, and there are more recent works. I think it's a 2018 book, and people are like, "Well, he should have stopped with this one," and that was his first book. And I'm like, "No, no, this is a guy who's like, what? No." But yeah,
Here's the beautiful thing is I somebody told me it's like we're not meant to be ice cream. Everybody's not supposed to like us and I was like,
yeah,
"Ooh, that is so beautiful." We're always looking for who are those readers that are going to connect. And sometimes
mhm,
some of our works are not going to connect with our own readers. Like I write outside genres. So
yeah.
I can tell you some of my readers are not interested in reading my devotionals and most of my devotional readers don't care about my urban fantasy. It happens.
Yeah, yeah. But I think as long as you let people know what you're doing, you know?
And they're perfectly okay understanding that everything works for different people and I'm not
Yeah,
trying to force one group into the other. So it's
yeah,
kind of fun. You have other books that I'm going to talk about why I still have you because why not? They're in the carousel. And the first time we talked a lot about they canceled the DJ and I thought, "Hmm, this is a really interesting concept and you do put your characters through hell." I was like, "I wonder why he does that." Now I'm seeing a pattern. So bring us into this. Freddie, what is they cancel the DJ all about? Talk to us.
yeah. They canceled the DJ is just that. He meets a woman. This is the cardinal sin, the unwritten cardinal sin of all radio hosts. You do not date listeners. You just don't do it. My wife and I have been married for more than 20 years. Guess how I met her?
No.
Not because I was a DJ. I met her in accounting class at University of Houston. So I am living proof that this is just, you want a successful relationship. This is what you don't do. You don't date listeners. So this guy, his name. Oh, now I'm spacing on his name. AC. Aubrey Cortez. I should remember my characters' names. AC meets a listener, Bobby, at a radio station event, and long story short, she ends up being Mrs. Right now. He thinks she's Mrs. Right, but Mrs. Right now, unbeknownst to him, is so infatuated with the fictitious star River Bronswell that she not only writes fanfic, but she ends up using AC to get to where they're backstage with River, and she ditches him on stage in front of everybody, and it devolves into this cluster F.
I'm going, oh my God, that is so heartbreaking. What did you say? It's like, wait, what? You just left him on stage for somebody else?
Yeah.
Yeah, devastating. I also didn't realize there was an unwritten rule of not dating listeners. It's like, where is that rule at? And do other people know this? Because we should tell them.
Yeah. I have, I was I'm no longer in terrestrial radio. I fired them. But when I first started as late teen, there may have been a situation where I met a listener and they were a little bit not right.
That's
And I'll just
usually
leave it at that.
that's usually a good way to put it. It's like they were a little bit, yeah, we're gonna go with that.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm alive.
So are we. Thank you. That's ooh, ready. Tell us the idea for this book. How much did you pull from your life? How much did you pull from your friend's life? How do you get this idea to come to the page?
Funny you ask, because this is inspired by actual events. So, pre
Ooh.
COVID, this is 2019, a buddy of mine, Tyler Fry, love him. He is no longer in Houston, he is in Kansas City now, enjoying probably even more frigid temps than you and I in Texas. But he at ACL was backstage with a band that shall remain nameless. He was backstage with a band, and there were a whole bunch of media folk and they were covering the event. He was broadcasting live. There was a photographer lady from a Houston area publication that shall remain nameless, and he thought that they were hitting it off, and they were until they weren't. And she left him for a barefoot lead singer of that band. Fast forward to 2022, I think they might still be in Europe, married with a kid.
Ooh.
And so I was like, that is that is hilarious. Oh my gosh. So we were ribbing him like, oh my gosh, Tyler got dumped for a pop star, blah, 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 blah. And then my friends were like, well, yeah, you should make that into a book, Freddie. That should be your next book. And I go, you know what? I think I might. So at that time, I was studying craft and watching YouTube videos and listening to writing podcasts about writing. This is so meta, and reading books about writing. And so I was at a point where, well, how can I make stronger, better, more distinguishable characters? Oh, you got to put them through hell.
You're doing a great job. So,
Thank you.
mission accomplished. I don't know how your friend feels about his story being publicly, displayed for us to be like, ooh. Do you at least give your characters a happy ending at all?
No.
Okay, you had to think about it. You're like, no, sorry.
Well, yeah. Well, I will say that it depends.
Okay.
I think it depends on which character you are cheering for. And I think that what I don't really use the first book as sort of a gauge for character development, although there are strong characters. There's a great villain in the first book, and a couple of great good guys. But I think it was more along the lines of Joseph Campbell's what is it, the character arc, the hero's journey. I think that
Mm-hmm.
was a little more hero's journey ish. The first book, When America Fell Silent, with the more recent two, it's more how can I just make things gray, because
Oh,
I
I
don't
love that.
think yeah, I don't think that humans are just one thing. And as storytellers, we have to do a very good and believable job of creating characters that are complex and deep. And I think that's what resonates with people. And so by the end of my stories, I have made it sort of speaking of unwritten rules, I've got an unwritten rule that by the end of a story, I want more readers than not to question whether or not they cheered for the right character. So it just
Ooh.
depends. Who got the happy ending? That's not for me to decide.
That is such a beautiful way of looking at it. And readers have a point. Like, what do you want to take? Who do you like? Because believe it or not, everybody might not be cheering for the same person, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I am such a believer that everything's not black and white. They're not all good, they're not all bad, and if they are, they tend to be one dimensional. So everybody
Yeah.
wants the evil guy to be super evil, and I was like, the bad guy is the own hero in his own story. You are her story. So why do we have to be one-sided? So I love it. For everybody watching us, by the way, we're celebrating Freddie's new release of his book, and we do have a comment. So I'm going to, because I'm watching the comments as well. So let me give you from Alexandros. His comment is so true, and I'm a huge fan of an outrageous, standalone, and dark comedy caper packed with over-the-top antics, satirical commentary, and humorous twists. Dear, you need to pick up either one of these books. This is for you. Freddie is your guy.
Thank
So yes,
you.
thank you so much for joining us. So, darling, let's jump in. I have one more in the carousel before I ask you more questions, so we are definitely on time. When the American Fell Silent, what is this book about? Tell us.
It is the story of a ballistic first daughter who overthrows the United States government after her parents are assassinated on Inauguration Day. The comp would be 1984 meets The Purge. In fact, I was told that the book is reminiscent of 1984, but on steroids. And then I had another reader, and this was probably to date the biggest compliment that I've ever received about any of my work, even, and this just transcends anything I've ever done, because this reader said it reminded him of the Gulag Archipelago by Alexander Solzhenitsyn, which, by the way, is a nonfiction book, which, by the way, Time magazine called the most important book of the 20th century. And I am a, I love Solzhenitsyn's work as far as how he chronicled his time in the Russian gulags. And if you learn how he ended up there, and then what he went through and what he endured, I think that people in the West would be wise to really appreciate what he did for basically leading the Soviet Union to collapse. So it was a huge compliment from a reader to say something like that to me. And the question he had posed after he left his comment was, it made me ask myself what I would do if I was in that situation.
Freddie, that is absolutely. I'm still going, oh my God. I love the fact that you have these most outrageous plots and you take them in there. And I also love the comment from your reader. That is beautiful. It is very much in tune with understanding that you're connecting. You're connecting to such a different level with your readership that is going to be like, that is very unique. Where did this idea come from? Can we say that? Like, what were you watching? What happened that you were like, you know what? This will make an amazing book. I just need to know, where did that come from? Tell us.
Uh, I think I've probably used the word projection at least two times before. Now this is the third or fourth, and so I'll say it a fourth or fifth time. This is a projection, and just seeing how people behave, not just on the internet, but amongst friends, and how collectively speaking we treat one another because we may think a certain way or speak a certain way or look a certain way or vote a certain way. And so um, it was, well, you want tyranny, this is a real tyranny. And so that was my projection. And so I took everything that I had learned and when did I publish this book? In 2019. So I was what, 44, I guess. I'm really bad at math. My copy hadn't kicked in yet. So here I am in my
For Natalie.
mid 40s. And so I took all these things that I learned. I love history. I'm a big fan of reading World War One and World War II history. I love Revolutionary era history. As a Cold War kid, obsessed with Russia, and still to this day obsessed with learning about Russia. Who are these people? Why do they do these things that they do? Who's pulling the strings? Who is the modern day Rasputin, if you will? So um, taking all these things that I've learned and applying them to something that I can use to create a piece of work rather than argue with people I love argue with my friends, argue with strangers on the internet. I have something, it's not my book, but I have a book to show for it. So,
I love how you're taking it and you're twisting it and you're bringing it into the conversation because sometimes we don't bring things to the conversation. So you're putting
thank
things
you.
into the perspectives like, what if? And making people question. And you do it in a way that it makes it easy to digest. I think that's one of the things about books that makes it interesting is we can open conversations without
Yeah.
feeling attacked. You're not pointing a finger, hey, you, but like, what if, after reading this book, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Somebody might not want to read the Gulag Archipelago, which, by the way, is a really long book, but maybe
Yes.
they'll go and watch a YouTube video of how he couldn't even go and claim his Nobel Peace Prize because he feared for his life because of the Soviets, or all the things that it took just to get the book out of Russia and the people who helped them. A lot of, in fact, I thought it was a very strong statement when they were when I saw that Time magazine quote, and I learned of the book. I'd never heard of the book until I was
Mm,
already in my mid 40s, and I heard Jordan Peterson tell Jocko Willink, who's a podcaster and former Navy SEAL, that I think the Gulag Archipelago should be required reading for everybody in high school. And I thought, wow, I've never even heard of this book. I've never even heard of this guy. And so I went and bought the book. I went to the bookshop, and the guy goes, "You made my day." Really? Oh yeah, it's that good. Here it is. And so he was all smiles. I mean, you would have thought that I handed him $100 bill. I walked in and asked him for this book, and then I read the book and was floored by some of the stuff that I read. First person accounts, and you got it. I mean, if you were unjustly thrown into a prison, and I'm just saying like an American prison, which by the way is a lot like a luxurious hotel when you think about the
thank you.
in context, you know, you juxtapose that with what he went through, and you're like, wow, I would have written a 1,000-page tome as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sweetie, you bring so much to the table. And by the way, it's so much fun to talk to you. You have all this energy. I'm like,
Thank you.
yes, I'm not the only one. Super
Thank you.
coffee. This is why we
Thank
need to
you.
hang out. I love it because I'm like, yes, Freddie's coming. We're going to be super cheerful together early in the morning. I love it.
Yeah.
Sweetie, how did you transition from doing radio and DJing to becoming a writer? And how was that process for you?
I got out of top 40 radio before it wasn't fun.
I like that.
You know, I don't believe in following your passion and doing what makes you happy. I also believe that there needs to be a clear line drawn between what you stand for, what you're passionate about, and whether or not you can apply your skill set to something else. And so this was a very conscious decision that over the past, I should say 2 years, so 2019, I would even go back and say 2018 to 2020, I think 2018 to 2021, um, I would just say that when you see the writing on the wall, you have to take it for what it's worth. And so you start getting your affairs in order. And so that was me canceling the DJ. And it wasn't the book was not written in any kind of ironic or mm, I don't know, metaphysical. I think it was just coincidental that the book came out when I decided to not be a radio DJ anymore. A unbelievable coincidence, but there were things that I wanted to do. I wanted to apply what I had learned in my 20 plus years in radio and do something else. And so I tried to get a corporate job, and that didn't work out after about 400 applications and 50 some odd rejections and a few interviews gone awry. And so I decided, well, I think maybe I should just hire myself and start a company. And so that's where I'm at now.
I love it. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your company?
Sure. Thank
Why
you.
not?
Yeah. Yeah. It's Freddie Cruz Creative Works, and I do podcast production and consulting and copywriting.
Ooh. So all you creators out there, you're looking for an actual expert that can walk you through this, call Freddie. Trust me. Sometimes it looks easier than it is. I was like, yeah, you might need some help. Give him a call. He's here to help. Sweetie, we're here to celebrate for everybody watching us. If you're watching the replay, we're celebrating Freddie's new book. And by the way, it's going to make you go, ooh, did we go there? We go there. Allow me to ruin your Christmas. And I'm super thrilled for it. Freddie, before you leave us, and I have some questions more because we can talk about anything all day. What have you learned in your writing process that you would like to share with our viewers?
The more you do it, the better you get. And the better you get, the more curious you get, meaning you want to learn all the things from all the writers. You want to learn about what they got wrong and how they ended up getting it right. You want to learn about all of the pitfalls they encountered. You know, my favorite writer of all time is Chuck Palahniuk. He's the guy who wrote Fight Club. And this may or may not give you hope if you are an aspiring writer. He had maybe one or two people show up to his first signing at a Barnes and Noble. I think it was in California. I don't know if he currently lives there, but he was at the time in the Portland area. And his book sold so bad, the publisher was going to send it back from the bookstores to get it pulped. Pulped meaning the paper shredded and recycled to turn into somebody else's book, to turn into Freddie's or DC's new book because it sold so badly. In fact, his advance, he will tell you it was more fu money, like or I'm sorry, shut the f up money, meaning the advance was so bad that they were like, well, we offer him this shut the f up money. Maybe he'll be like, shut the f up. I'm not going to take this. But no, he took the advance because he wanted to be published so bad. And
Good
so
for
they're like,
him.
oh well, yeah. But he wrote Fight Club at when he was on an assembly line at Freightliner, and chapter 6, I believe, was a short story that eventually turned into the book. I mean, I can go on and on about my favorite writer all day. The way somebody can go on and on about, I don't know, Billie Eilish or Justin Bieber or Dwayne the
Hmm.
Rock Johnson, I can go on and on about him. And so my point, long story short, is just to write the book because you never know what kind of impact you'll have. And guess what? It might not get made into a movie with Brad Pitt and Ed Norton, but you never know what kind of impact you'll have on your first fan. And to take it another step, I learned this year that Edgar Allan Poe didn't even make but maybe $200 off of his writing over the course of his entire life. And Homie died when he was in his early 40s. And you fast forward from the 1800s to the 20th century, and what do we have? Awards named after him, societies
Everywhere.
named after him, required reading. And so you never know what kind of impact you have on somebody. And can you imagine, DC, being the person who read his work and was like, huh, I've got a friend who works at a college who might like this guy.
You
And
being the
that friend,
Think about you being the first professor. Be like, everybody needs to read this. This is what we're going to be
yeah,
teaching. It is amazing. And by the way, I love that you point this out because sometimes a lot of our viewers, a lot of aspiring authors want to be an amazing writer. But they're not comparing themselves to the writer when they started out. Like I tell this story to everybody. It's like everybody wants to be Stephen King right now. Nobody wants to be Stephen King when he started out in his laundry room writing on top of a dryer. Nobody wants to be that guy. Like nobody wants to be the guy having two
yeah.
kids yelling and your wife having to do all the stuff to support the family. You want to be him now. It's like it's okay to be Stephen King. Just remember it took him a long time to get there and be okay with that process. So,
And a lot of books too.
thank you. Non-stop writing and non-stop rejections. He had a whole wall of rejection that he collected. I was like, that's a lot more than I can handle. I don't think I'm going to be collecting those.
Yeah.
So, darling, Give us a take. We're getting ready to take us to wrap up, and I want our viewers to know we're celebrating the release of your new book, Allow Me to Ruin Your Christmas. Give us the pitch. What is this one book about? What can people expect?
It is a twisted holiday tale. If you are sick and tired of the sweet holiday time romance stories where you can just cuddle up with your favorite characters and a hot glass of cider, if you want that kind of story, you're not going to get it. You're not going to get it. It's revenge, it's lies, it's betrayal. It is violence, perhaps. It is it is a bad case of Schadenfreude. By the end of the story, you will feel bad for cheering for the character's demise. Yeah, you're just gonna you're gonna feel a certain way, and I promise you that there will be no happy ending, at least for the character whose demise you're rooting for. So thank you for allowing me to ruin your Christmas with a free book. By the way, we are on Amazon. You're a Kindle subscriber, you get it for free, so you
Which
can read
means
it today and tell all your friends tomorrow.
get it now. Pick up your copy. It's going to be fabulously amazing. You're going to have a blast reading it. So, a little bit twist, a little bit, you know, thriller for your Christmas. If you're looking for something different, this is the book. Sweetie, thank you so much for joining us. I, like usual, have a blast talking to you because it's so much fun. And you have all this energy too. So, I love it. I
Thank
can't
you so
wait.
much.
Congratulations on the new book. I can't wait to see what you have back because I want you back on the show so we can talk about it, celebrate it. Guys, this book is less than 30 days, so you need to get it now. Enjoy it. To our viewers, we'll be back next Wednesday with another author and another new book that's going to be your next favorite book. So join us. Freddie, any closing remarks for us?
Get DC's book, The Hitman.
Hey, it's free. Check it out.
Sasha, she's an assassin.
So much
She's a
fun.
baddie.
And they're all bad. Is anybody good sometimes? Sweetie, happy holidays. Enjoy this incredible weekend. Please stay warm because it's really, really cold. If you're watching us, make sure to come back next Wednesday for more authors. And everyone, have an amazing holiday. Bye, Freddie. Thank you, sweetie.
Thank you.